Oshomole don't want on our head. See, if you cannot bear the pain of rigging, losing the election, you should not contest elections. Upon that one, when Oshomole give on I see they go poo body. Ondo PDP members see they cry from one television station to the other because of say the election outcome when they just concluded recently no favor them. I don't know why in each time politicians contest election they don't win, they go just assume the paint narrative say they ring election and give them.
As the APC are looking at them quizzically and insisting that the process was as free and as fair as possible. But even President Olusegun Obasanjo isn't convinced, and as Nigerians continue to gasp over this country's toxic politics, the former president has been talking about election fraud and the current system of accession to power in which leadership is attained through bribery, intimidation and violence. He suggests that electoral reform must be among the top targets for change in Nigeria. It's a view that's been echoed severally by the 2023 presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Prince Adebayo, whose party, the SDP, has called for the just concluded Ondo governorship election to be immediately cancelled, citing innumerable instances of what it called open vote trading and very visible rigging. So is this yet another lament by an opposition party that's wallowing in the agony of defeat, or do they have a point? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the lawyer and 2023 presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, or SDP, Prince Adebayo. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles. Good to see you.
And were you in Ondo State then?
Yes, of course I was.
So you took part in that election?
I took part in voting.
Right, in voting.
Yes.
Right. Describe for us what you witnessed at that election from your observation perch. Was it overwhelming or underwhelming as a free and fair election?
Basically, we're not even talking in terms of free and fair now. We're talking in terms of legal and illegal. Because what took place is criminality. Because you are not allowed to buy or sell votes. So essentially, what happened was massive vote buying and vote selling. That's where I have problems. There are minor issues like INEC officials not coming on time, not having the regular problems that you found with INEC.
Logistical problem.
Logistical problem. In fact, they had to come to my compound to borrow a table for them to use and things like that. So that we can overlook, not coming on time. But it went peacefully, but the vote buying was not hidden at all. It was well known. It will remind you, if you have attended a church bazaar before, a church harvest, where you just offer money, it was open. And even the media just decided to ignore it for I don't know why, because it was staring them in the face. And even common people, when interviewed, will casually tell you, oh, it was a nice election, I sold my vote and I got my money.
Yes, I actually heard one person saying that.
Yeah, so it was, and that's the part that I find most unfortunate, and it makes the whole exercise illegal. Not just because the election is lost and won, but because it is not right. You are the party in power. If you want to make vote buying legitimate, you have enough members in the National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act and say you can sell and buy votes, and we can list votes as part of the commodities on the stock exchange. So then you know that if I want to run an election, I get shareholders, I raise funds, then we go and do a bazaar. But this bizarre thing that they are doing is just not right.
Yeah, no, I think everybody in their right mind would agree with your assessment. But then there is also another way of looking at this, given where Nigeria has come from in terms of how bad elections have been and how blatant the rigging and the violence and the intimidation has been. How much of a spectacle was this under election in the way that other elections in Nigeria have become a spectacle of vote buying, rigging, and violence. I'm not in any way suggesting that what you're saying is not accurate or inaccurate or whatever. I'm just saying in terms of degrees.
Well, it's a question which every criminologist would. I remember my teacher, Professor Kwafo, asking us that kind of question. It's like degree between murder and manslaughter, which is more serious. But the victim is dead. So now you look at jurisprudence of it. What I know is that in Edo, for example, there was vote buying, but I was in Edo. I didn't vote there. But in Ondo State, where I did vote.
And you're from Ondo State.
I'm from Ondo.
Yeah.
Where I noticed, and given the history of that state with respect to the tendency to have some moral high ground, moral standing, the idea of selling votes, buying votes. This is not the first election. I think it started with fortunately, the former governor, the late governor. I think until Mimiko's time, the idea that you could sell or buy votes was almost impossible. Because at that time, people would still believe in the candidates and arguments and all of that. But in recent times, buying vote has become so open. I have seen elections, and this is why I'm talking to you about it. I have seen elections where people hide to sell votes or buy votes. I haven't seen an election where it is the main business itself, where law enforcement is there. In some polling units, you can ask media reporters to give you reporters. Polling units, the law enforcement are part of the commission agencies and all of that. The infrastructure of selling and buying, sometimes the person who is the invoice is the policeman who tells you, okay, yes, if voted for you, pay or don't pay. So that it's the death of a society. I'm not heartbroken that the APC candidate, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, is the governor. No, it's not somebody I'm against that much. But the idea that you could have a political class, a leadership of a constitutional government, forming themselves into that kind of brazen criminality and executing it. And if you look at Ondo State, in recent times, the APC has shown remarkable political ingenuity. The major political elites are all going their way. So they have enough talent, political talent, to convince the people and still try to win by a legitimate, simple majority. That they decided as a whole, including a sitting governor, a entire political party, elite, that they don't have enough credibility to convince voters that they needed to openly budget money, openly pay voters, and do it so brazenly, and involve law enforcement and other people in it, is why I'm talking. In fact, it's possible that if you do a rerun, they might still win because they look well prepared. You
just want it to be one fair and square.
Yes, and to be legitimate, right. not to criminalize politics.
So your assessment, because obviously we had Lucky Aiyedatiwa on Arise News this morning, the morning show. I mean, your assessment is that he obviously emerged as the winner, but that he will not be able, or he ought not to be able to beat his chest and say that he won the ballot fair and square.
No, not at all. I think he has an image. He's a quite nice gentleman, and he has some political innocence, because even the opposition party, everybody was sympathetic with him when he was being impeached by his own party, when they did not let him succeed or even manage the affairs of the state while his boss, the former governor, was incapacitated. So people like him. I don't know whether they like him to the extent of preferring him to other candidates, but he now being inaugurated into this criminality is most unfortunate for him, for the state, even for me, to witness him transform from a good-looking, nice gentleman, quiet, just coming to offer himself for service, to one who can be in this kind of conspiracy. And it is not the way I want governance to be done in Ondo State. And what makes it very dangerous is that you must have been monitoring the statistics. Ondo State is the least poor state in Nigeria. In the last few years, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics has consistently shown that Ondo State has the least poverty index. And if in that kind of state, you can weaponize poverty to the point of giving money to people to vote for you, what do you think will happen in more distressed states? And if you allow this to happen, people will copy it. And I must say it for fairness, it wasn't only the APC that was buying votes. There was another political party who tried to compete with them.
Which political party?
PDP.
Right.
They tried to do a Swiss challenge. You know, when you try to bid in auction and somebody offers 10,000, then you say, okay, I too offer you 10,000. They ran out of money, they ran out of breath at the point. And so it is, to be fair, it is not only APC. I don't know whether the vote buying that they did was because they expected that PDP was doing the same thing. But PDP, I don't know why, an opposition party, they're not in government in Ondo State, they've not been in government for a long time. I mean, they went around raising money, they too were buying votes. So, but of course, APC outgunned them in this criminal journey towards infamy.
So, I mean, given all these recurring, coruscating problems at every election and the cost to the losers of not only the campaign and the election itself, but the legal wrangling afterwards, and given the near certainty that the bigger parties are allegedly going to do the things that you mentioned, and as a result are almost certainly going to win, why do you think the smaller parties bother to enter these elections at all, when you would have thought that their consistent losses would help to concentrate their minds and formulate the decision that they needn't bother to do it again?
No, you see, in a democracy, one, you have a set of ideas that you believe in. And if you don't articulate them, if you don't offer them, you can't sleep. I cannot sleep, for example. I have water policy, energy policy, security policy, economic policy, educational policy. I cannot have them in my head. I'll run mad. I need, because I see something going on, society going wrong, and I have a solution. So I will go to the people to offer this solution. Whether they listen well, will keep coming. That's the idea. But what we are fighting against is not that someone wins an election or not. Is that the
process
politics is becoming a criminal enterprise. Right. And more people are getting recruited into it. So it's got to a point where it is on the supply side, it's also on the demand side. Sometimes when you go, even in smaller parties, some smaller parties are not buying votes, not because they don't believe in it, because they don't have the money.
Right.
That if they had the money, they would...
So the political philosophy is wrong.
It's wrong, basically. Right. So we've had, even internally, some discussion in our party where one or two people will come out and say, suppose we find somebody who can give us some money, can we try and buy some votes? We always tell them, it doesn't work. Even if we won a lottery, we're not going to buy votes. It's wrong. Because I know the long-term implication of...
But you're also tempered by the fact that, you're a smaller party and the chances of your winning are actually very slim, aren't they?
No, chances of winning by illegitimate means have been ruled out.
Right.
It doesn't mean that within our party, we don't have individuals who have more money than the people in APC or PDP. But the people you have in our party are people who can spend ₦1 billion on charity, but they will not spend ₦1 on bribery or criminality.
And that is somebody like yourself.
Someone like me and other people like me. So I have people in our party who are MDs or banks who have other things. We have people who are individually wealthy, professionally wealthy. The issue is that politics is the highest art of the state. And if it is apparent to the people that you are just a bunch of unserious people who have no charisma, no message, or who don't have the confidence to come and face the people, win or lose, that what we are doing now is just buying votes. That's why you see there's apathy. The rest will say, my vote will not count. Why am I bothering to come out? That's what leads to the other apathy. I remember one conversation I had with my local people. When they asked me, where are you, sir? I said, I'm in Doha, Qatar. Will you still come home to vote? I said, yes. And someone said, why are you spending $20,000 to buy a ticket to come down to vote? You can just say half of that. 10,000 people vote on your behalf with that kind of money. Why are you coming? I said, no, my one vote is important. What we are trying to let people know is that we said we don't want military rule. we don't want monarchy, we don't want any other system, we want a democratic system. And when someone is attacking it at its core, delegitimizing the process, the social contract that used to exist in Ondo State, under Ajasin, under Olumilua, under Agago, even under Segun Mimiko, that social contract has become a commercial contract where people just believe, I don't know these guys, I don't care what they stand for, but I know once in 4 years, they will come with money, I collect my money, I block my nostrils, just thumbprint and walk away.
But in spite of all that money that you allege was distributed there, I mean, there was voter apathy. The turnout, I understand, was quite low.
The apathy was two ways. One, there are people who believed, and I believe wrongly, that no point making the effort. This thing is going to be rigged anyway. There are those who believe that election is vote buying, vote selling. I'm not that wretched. I don't have time for that. That's why I want us to eliminate that. I don't mind you defeating me with 10,000 votes. If all the votes you get, legitimate votes, is 45,000, you are the governor, because that's the highest vote. But the idea of introducing criminality into election, there are some improvements in the election, I must tell you, because there used to be a time in this country, especially under the PDP days, where they would just sit down in a coven somewhere, conjure magical figures, announce the figures without even the ballot paper coming into your vicinity. Some governors are still doing that in local government elections. They will just not show up at all, stay in government house and announce fictional numbers. That is not what INEC is doing. There's some improvement in the system because the beavers and all this other biometric verification has reduced the possibility. But what they are now bringing, there used to be a time also when there was violence. You will not be allowed to come and vote. Even towards the end of the...
well, we saw it in 2023.
Yes, even they will come out, you can't vote, they chase you away. That did not happen this time around. So I don't want them to be doing substitution of criminality. You drop one bad habit, you pick another one. And I think that many people are saying, many discussions on it, people say, oh, well, okay, if they are buying votes, you too find money and buy votes. But that is wrong.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Some will say, okay, maybe if the voter collects money, he may still use his principle and then go and vote for who he likes. No, if you have principle, you won't collect money.
Absolutely.
Secondly, the person paying you the money is monitoring you because the whole thing is, you remember that part of the scripture where Jesus came and turned the table and said, get out of my father's house? That's how a polling booth looks like now. You just come there, you could see the setting, it looks like a supermarket. The guy who is canvassing is at the door, the guy who is holding the money is on the other side, the policeman who is maintaining law and order.
I think what is worrying and frightening about what you say is how overt it is.
It is. They are negotiating that. You will go to PDP and say, how much is it? Okay, hold on. The deal is not closed yet. I'm still coming back. Then you go to the APC canvasser and say, look, can you switch challenge? I've been offered 5,000 here. What are you guys saying?
And the fact that it's done allegedly under the full glare of security agents.
If it's just, full glare only, full glare is bad, but in some cases, participation. Because it's a marketplace.
It's unforgivable.
And like the way you find policemen in front of banks to make sure that the bank is not looted, in marketplaces to ensure that there's security, that kind of security they provide for this buying and selling of votes, it is bad. We should stop it. I don't want it to become part of the training. When you enter politics, they'll tell you, the first thing you do, find money for bribery. And I must say to you that some of these things we are catching will start earlier. People who are buying votes now on election day bought votes in their party's primaries. That is the problem.
Right.
So from the moment,
trend,
from the moment they came to the candidacy or they showed interest, they buy the form. But when they are doing the primaries on the election, they pay the delegates, and they think that this is part of the investment that they are making into politics. Some believe, like people like us, are just quixotic. we don't know what we are doing because we are unrealistic.
They think they're the smart ones.
Yeah, they think that what they are doing is the right thing to do because that's the convention.
There is something, though, I think we touched on this earlier, about politicians, isn't there, that they seem to want to come back over and over again, even if each time the political spectacle doesn't go the way that they wanted it to go.
The idea is this. A country needs a political
And we're not talking about people like you, arguably, who have principles and a vision and something you want. I mean, I'm just talking about your, run-of-the-mill sort of shifty, dodgy politician.
The issue is this. Some of the people we call politicians are not politicians. So me bringing your lapel mic and putting it here doesn't make me a journalist. So to be a politician, you must stand for something. You must be interested in representative democracy, and you must be interested in the argument of the day. What is the issue that is deciding the election? Then you go and canvass, and then if you lose, you lose. If you win, you govern. But these people are behaving like marauders and people who are actually purchasing things. They want to capture something, and they must win at all costs. And I'm telling them, especially in Ondo State, I know almost everybody there. There is a redeeming feature. These are people who ordinarily are good people, well-trained, they have a good background before politics. They should not adopt this style of politics. It is dangerous because people are seeing it. If you go to any WhatsApp group in Ondo State, people are discussing, why are we even doing elections? It is better for the government to just share the money and all of that. So the young people now don't believe that talent gets you anywhere. It's a terrible thing, isn't organizing it? Gets you anywhere.
So given that, how worried are you about what this means for future elections in Nigeria? The next one is coming up, the next big one is coming up in 2027. I mean, what does this Ondo election say to you about future Nigerian elections?
What it says to me is that the future of Nigeria is bright, provided that we can start screaming the way we are screaming now, and that we don't let people get away with it. We at least bring it up. We will go to the tribunal to try it. The judiciary chooses to see it. It's up to the judiciary. They don't see it, but we put it on record. And we keep talking. There's no way I see them. I see the governor. I see those who are there.
But you have evidence.
The evidence is everywhere.
No, it's not about being everywhere. I'm saying, you're a lawyer when you get into court.
We have judicial-grade evidence.
Right. Okay.
We have anecdotal evidence. But it is common knowledge. I don't think they would deny this. I mean, if you put a camera in front of them, they might be obliged to try to say, okay, let me just deny for the record. But they know, and it's a conversation. We all meet. It's not only an election time that we meet. We must have this constant conversation in our society. And there must be people in the civil society who will pick this up and make it an issue. The same way we dropped the idea of beating people up on election day, running away with the ballot. Some still run away with it now, but it's not like rampant as before. I'm looking forward to 2026, maybe after we've done Ekiti and done Osun, and watch out for vote buying. I complained to General Abubakar this morning when we met that, okay, you said we should be peaceful, there's peace committee. I told John Cardinal Onoyeko, I said, you said we should be peaceful. We see we are peaceful. But please add it to your homily that we should stop vote buying. So if we talk about it, the idea is not about who is doing it. It is a bad thing to do.
Absolutely.
In a country that is run by a democratic precept. You don't want people from outside observing your elections and they say, oh, you have been elected by buying votes. You don't want that to be what you study. You don't want that to be the convention that people grow into. It's very bad, and we should talk about it, not because you win or lose election. It should be a consensus in the political class if we are going to distinguish ourselves from a criminal class.
Thank you very much.
I don't know. Oshomole don't want on our head. See, if you cannot bear the pain of rigging, losing the election, you should not contest elections. Upon that one, you want to Oshomole give on I see the good poor body. Come on, body, if your skin no full, no, no go here. PDP members see they cry from one place to the other. They talk say APC collaborate with INEC, sabotage their potential of winning that election. Now that they plan, that they talk, say that the PDP don't reject the election outcome. They they review the outcome of the election. Meanwhile, Tinubu don't congratulate the winner. See, congratulate those who lose the election. So when they maintain peace and tranquility throughout the election process. However, Tinubu don't tell those who know this dissatisfied with the election outcome. May they go court. You know, say now their language. When they don't finish, they will tell you say go to court if you're not satisfied. And for court, they'll tell you where you Koboko. Where you Koboko. I don't know. You understand? For those states now, the PDP they get hope. Say for court, they go retain their mandate. You understand? When be like Tinubu balance for court, they wait for them. When they reach court, that court time don't reach. Tinubu court can Koboko. Wipe them for Yash. Wipe them for Yash. Now, if you be PDP, you won't contest election under Tinubu regime. Warn yourself, oh. Warn yourself.